Alright, what's going on, YouTube? I did my first impressions and unboxing of the brand new Analogue NT Mini Noir edition, and I've got this hooked up to my PVM, and straight off the bat, I had a ton of issues and incompatibilities. I've since had time to go through and dive into the settings, get a lot of these things corrected. So these are the things that you're going to want to change when you get your Analogue NT Mini Noir, which is this 2.0 version. It's a 3.0 version of the system if you consider the very, very original Analogue NT. So these are the settings that you're going to want to change if you're going to play this analog on your PVM over RGB. So for starters, let's take a look at the system and how we've got it hooked up. So if we take a top-down shot of the system, I've got it with the game to test all of this mess on, and that's Castlevania Dracula 3. Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse. So this cartridge, of course, has that extra sound chip that is utilized that is not interpreted correctly by a ton of the different clone systems and even emulators and things like that. So we've got to get the video settings correct. We've got to get the audio settings correct. There's a ton of things that we have to do. I'm running this over the output on the back plus RCA. So I'm using retro game cables out of the UK. I showed this on my unboxing video. Great quality cables. I'm going to be using those from here on out on this system. So let's dive in and look at what settings you need to change first and foremost. So going into the settings, I've made a ton of adjustments to the GUI so you can actually get on-the-fly feedback on these settings, because some of these settings were impossible to tell until you went in and out of the menus. So for starters, we're going to go in, before we get into audio and video, we're going to get into the system. So menu options, for whatever reason, B is select and A is go back. Yeah, we're changing that immediately. So straight down here, swap, confirm, and cancel. That was the first thing I changed. Selecting with B and reverse and going back with A, it's like the opposite of Pokemon, and it's going to drive you nuts. Change that first thing. Next, looking in menu options, I've changed the dim the game in main menu. This is what it would normally look like, so it's really easy to see your settings and the different text, but that's a big problem if you want to go and change color palettes and see what they look like in real time. This becomes an issue because you can't exactly see what it looks like. So I disabled this. It makes it difficult for everybody to see. So yeah, you kind of have to take the good with the bad there. Highlight color, font, highlight style, and skin, I didn't make any changes to that stuff. So the big things that you need to change, startup options, I took the boot sequence delay. There's like a 4-second delay between doing the boot up. Why? I have no idea. It makes no sense. It's like I'm wasting an unnecessary 4 seconds of my life. I brought that to 0. I also made it so that as soon as you boot up, you get the little boot up sequence, which you can totally stop and just go straight into the cartridge. I think the boot up sequence is really killer on this thing, so I kept the boot up sequence, but I go straight into the cartridge. I don't need to go and make an unnecessarily, go run my cartridge. It makes no sense. So I enabled that. Hardware options. Didn't really change any of these. This is all good to go. LED options, I did not customize the LED on this system. I don't think it's really necessary. For the big stuff, let's get into audio. First thing you want to do is go down here and do Enable Cartridge Audio. This won't be checked. You're going to need to check it. If you didn't have it checked, you wouldn't be able to hear the audio coming out of this. Well, you'd be able to hear some audio, and it would sound terrible. In my unboxing, I looked at this like sideways. I couldn't figure out what the problem was. You have to go and manually enable this. I can't figure out for the life of me why this wasn't enabled by default. You're going to need to enable it. You can also mess with the cartridge audio volume and some other filter settings. I didn't mess with any of that. I left it as is, but the RGB Masterclass folks, I do recommend tweaking the cartridge audio volume a little bit to your liking. I left mine default, but you do you. But this has to be checked. let's go back into video now. So I'm outputting RGB, so resolution, screen size, scalars, and scan lines, we're not going to touch any of that. That is only for those of you who are going to output over HDMI. We're going to go into analog output, and I'm not going to mess with any of this. There's also an advanced mode, which we can turn on, and we can get all kinds of other cool stuff. We're going to leave that off for the time being. So let's go into analog output, and we're going to go into advanced settings right here, and we can take a look at the different sync settings. I'm using these retro game cables from the UK. The regular composite sync is what you want. So you're going to leave that as is. And the most important thing that I had to figure out to change was this 700 millivolt RGB level. This has to be checked. If it's not, your video will look like this. It is so super bright and blown out. It's almost as if you don't have like a 75 ohm attenuation. It's bizarre. So that has to be checked, otherwise it doesn't work at all. And everything's terrible. So that has got to be checked. That took me forever to figure out, and once we did that, you know, we were in business. Next, your color palette is all in here. So it defaults to Firebrand X, which is very washed out. It does look very true to the NES. I find that FCEUX looks way better. Beware also looks really good, but it's really worth noting that you should be alternating between these three. Some games, the developers did intend for you to see them as the developer wanted, which is with their color palette that they would see on their workstations at their desks when they were developing these games. Some other developers compensated for the fact that the NES did not have good color output and purposefully made their colors oversaturated so that they would undersaturate when you played them on the NES. Games like Castlevania, good example of that. They wanted their bricks to look brown, so they made their bricks look orange in the code, so that way when you played it on your system, it would look the right color brown. You're going to have to change between these depending on games, and you'll notice some games just don't look right at all, or they'll just look bizarre. Changing your color palette is something you're going to have to do on the fly. You can load custom ones as well. I'm not going to get into that, but FCEUX definitely works for me. Beware is also kind of cool. Firebrand X is pretty much default for NES. It's very drab. It's not super exciting, but if you want it to look just like an NES, that's what you're going to want to do. Those are the main settings that I had to change. I've had some also really bizarre incompatibilities with my OSSC. It seems like there are some settings that the OSSC does and does not like. Once we've gotten things dialed in and everything's working, you're going to want to go, and don't forget to do this, you're going to want to go into your settings here and do save. It'll ask you, say yes, and then you'll go and you'll save your settings. If you do not save these settings, when you power off your system, you'll have to do it all over again, and that sucks. So, don't forget to save your settings, and you'll be up and running with your Analogue NT in no time. So, this new system, this Noir system, it really does look awesome. I mean, it's a really clean-looking system. The gunmetal and the gold and the clear, it's really nice. It looks awesome. It fits in with just the other motif and the themes of a lot of these NES games. They do look really great. So far, it's a thumbs up on the recommend. Even though my unboxing video is me just like looking at this thing crazy, like what am I doing wrong? It was me doing wrong, and there's a lot of default settings out of the box that you need to change, and now you know what those settings are. So enjoy your Analogue NT Mini Noir and have fun, and yeah. If you want to see more gameplay that's coming out of this Analogue NT Mini Noir, this is going to be my default going forward for playing any NES, Famicom Disk, and Famicom games on my channel going forward. So check me out. I stream in the evenings Pacific time, and you can see really firsthand what the video output of this console, really what it looks like, what it does when you know, when you're playing, when the rubber meets the road, so to speak. So check that out and give that a look and see if the system is going to do what it needs to do. So thanks for watching, and I will see you over on Twitch. Bye for now.